Two Worlds, One Family by Dragon Translator. Chapter 56. This is very confusing. They found all the Hoffersons outside in the grass, tucked between the back of their house and the cliff edge. Torgeir and Firestorm sat on one end, with Torgeir leaning against the Nightmare's leg. Firestorm had his head in Torgeir's lap and his tail curled in front of his rider. Gunnar and Niall seemed content with tossing dirt at each other closer to the cliff edge. Edith stood with Brynja and Astrid by the house, but kept an eye on the younger boys. Vikings in Berg learnt early to respect the edges of their village, but children were children. Still, Hiccup was not overly worried, nor were the Hoffersons. Firestorm, Windwalker standing next to Brynja, Wind Dancer standing next to Astrid, Stormfly, and even Toothless would gladly go after a child that went off the edge. Stormfly left Hiccup's left side and moved to stand next to Windwalker. He cooed and nuzzled his cheek against hers. After several times Windwalker just happened to show up during patrols that had all the riders circling Berg, the male Nadder finally asked Brynja for permission to court Stormfly. Toothless had told Hiccup it was nothing odd to the dragons. Brynja was considered the flock leader that Stormfly was a part of. The Vikings on Berg found the entire thing amusing, and the topic of several discussions, as Windwalker asked in the middle of the plaza 2 weeks before Johann's second trip to Berg. Hiccup relaxed, as it seemed the conversation to come would not break hearts. "Where's Sharpshot?" Astrid asked, moving away from the house and walking over to take his left hand. "Right now," Toothless said, a chuckle in his tone, shaking in his scales. "Toothless!" "What, brother? He is. What he's doing is nerve-wracking. Or so I've been told." "What is he doing?" "What is he doing?" Astrid asked. "He went to find Sage and ask her permission to court that red female." "Ha!" Astrid exclaimed. "I knew it! I've taken to calling her Sneaky, with how often she appears out of nowhere, with some excuse to show off for him." Hiccup grinned. "Sneaky! I like it. I'll ask her next time I see her how she likes it." He gestured to Stormfly. "Stormfly said she had something she wants to speak to all of us about." "Stormfly and I do, actually, Alpha," Windwalker said. He stood straighter, before looking at Brynja. "We wish to ask permission for a matehood ceremony." Brynja crossed his arms over his chest and stared at Windwalker. "But soon, don't you think?" he asked, frowning. Windwalker chittered, his wings flittering and his head twitching as he stared at Brynja with one eye and then the other. Stormfly did the same. Edith laughed, laying a hand upon Brynja's arm. "Don't mind him, dears," she said. "He's just being a father." "He is my flock leader," Stormfly said, "but not my father." Brynja grunted. "Stormfly, I became your father the day Gyda returned our memories to us." He jerked his head towards Firestorm. "Became that one's father the day he got his leg broke." Firestorm jerked, lifting his head from Torgeir's lap. "My father died to that monster," the young nightmare said. "Well, you got a new one, son," Brynja said. Hiccup used his free hand to hide his smile. Stormfly and Firestorm stared at Brynja as if he had two heads. He glanced at Toothless, finding his dragon brother grinning, ears up and eyes dilated as wide as they would go. Toothless looked at him and cooed softly, then nuzzled against his right side. Hiccup placed his hand down upon the top of Toothless's head. He had no idea his shooting down the dragon would lead to this, and his only regret in everything that happened was the pain and fear Toothless had to endure when his tail fin tore off. Well," Windwalker began, shaking his head slightly and flared his wings, before settling and looking at Brynja again. "We wish to have a matehood ceremony, so that we may go with the other mated pairs off to the hatchery this year, as that monster is not alive to stop us." Hiccup began, and everyone turned to him. A small part of him reacted as he used to when a group of people stared at him. His head lowered and his shoulders bowed in. Astrid squeezed his hand, and Toothless cooed and nuzzled against him. Hiccup cleared his throat, his spine straightening. "I'm happy for both of you," he said, looking at Windwalker and Stormfly. "But why am I here? This sounds like a family discussion." "You are family, son," Brynja said before anyone else could respond. Now Hiccup stared at the man as if the man had lost his mind. "I'm not blind, boy," Brynja said, and then jugged his chin towards Astrid. "I know my daughter, and I know what she wants in the future." Hiccup felt his cheeks catch flames. He cleared his throat and looked away, hand lifting from Toothless's head to around the back of his neck. "Besides," Windwalker began, "an alpha is supposed to oversee all matehood ceremonies." The female elder hissed. "A queen is supposed to as well, if a nest does not have an alpha. That monster never did. She never cared, so long as her tributes did not start coming. And this matehood will have to be different than all others." Stormfly said, "Normally, I would leave my flock and form a new one with my mate. But I have a rider, and that bond Elder Gita spoke of makes me fight leaving Astrid." Hiccup's armor lowered. He stared at Stormfly, since her comment he could process and deal with. Wind Dancer's comment held too much for him to handle right now. Stormfly sounded similar to Sharpshot, and Hiccup blinked, realizing the dragons were worried about leaving the family they had gained after the Red Death's demise. He smiled. "You don't have to," he said. "Vikings keep family in one house." "Hiccup's right," Brynja said. "Since Windwalker doesn't have a house I find suitable for Stormfly, he'll have to live here." Windwalker squawked slightly. "My cave is not suitable?" Brynja grunted. "Yes. Besides, you have no way to provide a bride price, and we'll just have to stay instead." Windwalker and Stormfly exchanged glances with each other, and then turned to Hiccup. They both moved over, standing in front of him. Windwalker lowered his head. "Alpha, we are confused." Hiccup smiled. He lifted his hand and did not have time to turn his gaze before Windwalker placed his muzzle in Hiccup's palm. He began scratching the dragon's jaw. Edith walked over and stood next to Windwalker. "Don't mind my husband," she whispered. "He's just given you reasons to stay that fit with our customs and traditions. He would rather Stormfly not leave either. We do see her as another daughter, and those caves you will live in are on the other side of the island." "Will Alpha have to live here when he and Astrid have their matehood ceremony?" Stormfly asked. "No," Edith said, and Hiccup felt his cheeks warm again at the certainty in the woman's voice. Even she believed a marriage was inevitable. Could none of them see there was something wrong with him? Could none see that these feelings would annoy Astrid sooner or later? Hiccup frowned. Edith's certainty could stem from the fact that they would broker a contract between themselves and his father, and the marriage would happen anyway. He just hoped Astrid did not come to resent him if that was the case her parents took. He wanted a relationship with her that sounded like the one his father had had with his mother, if the stories Gobba had told him were true. Dancing in the rain and laughing even if the rest of the village did not know what brought about their joy. Teasing each other when Dad was not doing a round of chiefing. Singing and dancing in the great hall every snuggle-tog. Astrid would live with Hiccup at his house. Edith's words pulled Hiccup from his thoughts. He did not have time to feel anything about that statement. Windwalker and Stormfly chittered loudly. "This is very confusing," Stormfly said. Edith chuckled. "We're sorry that it is, dear. But to us, it's the way things have always been." "So if Astrid will live with Alpha, why does Brynja not wish me to live with Windwalker?" "The distance," Edith said softly. The chief's house is just up the hill. Windwalker's cave is on the north side of the island, near to the other edge. To a human, that is a daunting trek to make if we wish to visit you. But you can fly now, Windwalker said, tilting his head. Any dragon in the nest will let you ride their backs and take you out there. Humans are strange, and Vikings even stranger, Edith said, winking. We would rather all our family be close at hand, instead of spread out all over. Stormfly blinked. Now that I understand. I want my rider and little sister close. Little sister? Astrid asked, eyebrow lifted. You are younger than me, Stormfly pointed out. Astrid snorted. Edith grinned and scratched both dragons' chins, earning coos from them. Either way, she said, we are thrilled you two want to get married, and you have our blessings. You will be living here afterwards, though, just so you know. At least until Hiccup and Astrid get married. Then you will live in the chief's house, but that will still be closer than those caves. Brynja snorted. I get the feeling we'll be needing more wood to build bigger houses now. We could try incorporating stone into the houses, Hiccup said softly. It would mean less wood needed, and I know of a cave system with loads of loose stones that might need clearing up. He immediately froze when everyone looked at him again. I didn't make the mess, he said as a reflex, earning a look from Astrid. Gira said the mechanism Hamish II put in wore down over time. Hiccup, Edith said, placing a gentle hand upon his shoulder. You don't have to explain. We know you didn't cause that cave-in, and you don't have to think we'll dismiss your idea. Brynja moved over and stared at Hiccup. Are you okay, son? Hiccup took a deep breath. Some days are harder than others, he whispered, not really wanting to go into details. He did not want to appear weak in front of Astrid's family. He had improved, but it was still only 2 months since he awoke to find his tribe did not want to tie him to a mast and cast him off. He was doing better at remembering things were different. It seems that Sharpshot's questions, plus Hiccup's own worry over everything that had happened since his father had left, had served to overwhelm him. He felt 2 pairs of arms enclose around him. He heard dual voices whispering into his ears, as dual chins landed upon his shoulders. Beyond their voices he heard several dragons crooning. Let him go, Brynja said. Hiccup flinched as Edith and Astrid pulled back. Hiccup, come here. Hiccup slowly moved to stand in front of Brynja, and blinked when the man pulled him close, wrapping his arms around his small frame. Never forget, Hiccup, Brynja whispered. Your tribe was the ones in the wrong. You are wanted. You are cared for. You are loved. Thank you, sir, Hiccup whispered. A screech had everyone spinning. The orange male terror that had come after Hiccup when Heather awoke landed and promptly fell to his belly, out of breath. Alpha! A challenge! Your brother! End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh my god, I love that chapter. I've been wanting to do it for ages. It's so domestic. Dragons and humans explaining each other's cultures. Hickstrid moments being cute. And oh my god, Hiccup, I just want to give you a cuddle. You have been put through the ringer. I think that's one of the reasons I love him so much. I related to Hiccup very strongly as a kid, but I've got Astrid's fierceness as well, which I think is a good combo. But I can also be timid and have that sort of need to be reassured. My family are amazing in that, by the way. My brother is a legend and I love my parents so much. And don't get me started on how awesome my sister is. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.